ओम सदाशिवसमारम्भां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। यदविद्याविलासेन भूतभौति सृष्टिः तन्नौमि परमात्मानं सच्चिदानन्दविग्रहम्। We were looking at Nirvikalpaka Jnana and Savikalpaka Jnana. For Nirvikalpaka Jnanam, the example given was Soyam Devadattaha Tattvamasi Ityadi Vakyani. So the Nayayika is obviously having a doubt here, because according to them, Vakyajanya Jnana, the Shabda Jnana, cannot be Aparoksha. Shabda Jnanam is Pratyaksha, it is Paroksha for them. It cannot be Pratyaksha. And also the Nayayika is asking, why are you giving an example of a knowledge born out of words when we are talking about perception or Pratyaksha? So Nirvikalpaka Jnanam is supposed to be Pratyaksha Jnanam. How can you give knowledge born of words as example for that? For this only, first he said, Shabda Jnanam is not Indriyartha Sannikarsha Janya Jnanam. That we rejected, because according to us, the contact between Indriya and Artha does not decide whether the knowledge is Pratyaksha or not. Our definition is that for knowledge to be Pratyaksha, the Vichaya Chaitanya and the Pramana Chaitanya should be abhinna, should be non-different to each other, and the Vishaya should be Yogya and Vartamana. It should be present and it should be capable of being perceived. So that is how we define Pratyaksha. So even when somebody comes and tells you something, like this is mango, for somebody who does not know mango and who is having a mango in his hand, if somebody comes and says this is mango, even though the knowledge is born out of words, it is Pratyaksha, because right there mango is available for you. Okay? Mango is available, so the Vishaya Chaitanya is there and the Pramana Chaitanya also is there, and they both are one and the same. So that is our criteria. So even such knowledge born of words also can be Pratyaksha Jnanam. Okay? So that is what we have told. Even then, another point is being raised now. What is that? Nanu Vakyajanya Jnanasya Padartha Samsarga Avagahitaya Katham Nirvikalpakatvam. So previously the objection was with regarding to whether it can be Pratyaksha or not. But now the objection is that how knowledge born out of words, how can it be Nirvikalpaka? Because we have defined Nirvikalpaka Jnanam as Samsarga Anavagahi Jnanam. So a knowledge where we do not cognize the relationship or qualifications, we only cognize the Swarupa of an object, or we learn the identity between two different objects which are qualified by, or the same object qualified by different space, time and other qualifications, like Soyam Devadattaha. Because Saha Devadattaha, when we say that Devadatta, means that Devadatta was some other time, correct, in the past. Then Devadatta was in a different Kola, you can say, correct. Devadatta looked different Devadatta was maybe wearing a different dress, was having a different type of hairstyle, maybe even hair color was different, all that was different. Now, I am Devadatta is this Devadatta. This Devadatta is qualified by this space and this time right now. And right now Devadatta is looking very different. So when we use the word Soyam Devadatta, there is no real identity between that Devadatta and this Devadatta. The identity is only possible with reference to the person or the Swarupa. There is no identity otherwise. There is no identity with reference to any of the qualifications. You understand that, I hope. So that is why we have to in fact give up all the qualifications and only understand that this is the same person. That means only the Swarupa is revealed. There is no samsarga. There is no contact or relationship or anything with anything else. We are not talking about the qualities of Devadatta here. We are only talking about Devadatta as a person. What is the identity of Devadatta? So such jnanam is really Nirvikalpaka jnanam. That is our example. But here the Nayayika is saying words themselves become pramana only when you use a sentence. Okay, Vakya is important. Shabda pramana is what? Shabda jnanam itself is Vakya janya jnana we are saying here, correct? It is born out of sentences. If you just say some words randomly, it's not going to become Shabda pramana. Cat, rat, something you just blabber, it will not become a sentence or it will not even convey anything meaningful. So for a sentence to be meaningful, the relationship between the words has to be understood. That is his point. He is saying Padartha Samsarga Avagahitaya. So the Vakya itself is giving you a knowledge only because you cognize the relationship between the words. If the relationship between the words are not cognized, how are you going to understand? Because for a sentence to be a proper sentence, it has to follow some grammatical rules. There has to be connection between different words in the sentence. From that only a Vakya Artha is understood, correct? Vakya Artha, for us to understand correctly, it is important that we understand the relationship between the words used in the Vakya. For example, Ramaha Gramam Gachati. We say Rama goes to village. Now here these vibhaktis are all important, correct? Ramaha is karta, subject. Gramam is object, karma. Gachati is kriyapada, verb. So we understand that the karta is also related to the verb. The object also is related to the verb. So generally in a sentence, verb is very important because most of the vibhaktis are all related to the verb in one way or the other. That is how we do even Anvaya. When we try to understand a Sanskrit verse or even Sanskrit sentence, you first try to see what is the verb and then how the other nouns are related to the verb. Except for Shashti, the Shashti Vibhakti is relationship between two nouns. There is no verb. But other Vibhaktis like Prathama, Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi, Panchami, Saptami, all these things are all related to the verbs. They are the verb in the sentence. So there is samsarga between the words. So you have to understand the samsarga, the relationship between the words. Then only you can understand the meaning of the sentence. So any Vakya Janya Jnana can never be Nirvikalpaka according to your own definition, he is saying now. Because our definition is what? Samsarga Anavagahi Jnanam. So that is what is the objection. Okay. So now Uchyate. So for that what do we say? वाक्यजन्य ज्ञान विषयत्वे हि न पदार्थ संसर्गत्वम तंत्रम. So we say always in a sentence the relationship between the words do not convey the final meaning. Of course, the relationship between the words we take into account, but when we understand the meaning finally, in that also some relationship has to be there. There is no rule. In fact, if you say that always we have to go by only the relationship between the words and all that, then you can even have problems, correct? In fact, that's what the author is pointing here. Anabhimata samsargasyapi vakyajanya jnana vishayatva apattehe. See, in many languages there are multiple meanings for words. If you purely go by the meaning of the word alone, you will never get the meaning of the sentence correctly, or you will never understand what is being conveyed, correct? That we all know. So even let us say a cricketer is asking for a bat. Get me a bat. Then nobody is going to go and try to hunt for a bat in the forest or somewhere else, correct? They are not going to bring bat the animal. Because a cricketer is asking for a bat means it is a cricket bat, correct? That is what is his intention in fact. He is asking for a cricket bat. If you just go by bat and what it conveys, nothing stops you from understanding that it is a animal bat. Okay. So like that, in many cases it is like that, correct? That is why even we have something called Lakshana Vritti. So I go to a hotel. I say, give me idli. Now if the waiter or the server goes purely by my words, he should bring idli in his hand and give it to me in my hand, correct? But it is not like that. When I say idli, he understands that he has to bring it in a plate, and not just idli alone. Chutney, maybe 2-3 chutneys, even some whatever powder in oil, gunpowder, sambar. So all these things together only they give us. So that means the waiter or the server also understood what I asked, and he is also bringing according to that only. They don't purely go by only the relationship between the words and all that. If we go like that, then nothing will happen in the world. No transaction will take place properly. Is that clear? So that is what the author is pointing here. Anabhimata samsargasyapi. Anabhimata means what? Unintended. Okay, if you don't go by the intention of the vakta, of the speaker, then anybody can construe any meaning. Okay, so that's not what we really want. So that is what he is saying here. So what is important in a sentence is tatparya. Okay, kintu tatparya vishayatvam. So the meaning of the sentence depends on the intention of the speaker. Whatever the speaker wants to convey, that alone is the important thing. And the sentence has to be understood so that we understand the intention or whatever the speaker wants to convey, we have to understand clearly. So it doesn't purely depend on only the relationship between the words in a sentence. Is that clear? So that is what we are saying. Tatparya is very important. In fact, that is why even in Brahma Sutra, in the Chatusutri, the last sutra is about that. Tattu Samanvayat. So the Samanvaya we have to do. What is the Tatparya of the Veda Vakya? Of the different Veda Vakyani, in fact, not only Veda, Vedanta. Because Uttara Mimamsa is mainly we are analyzing the sentences of the Vedanta. So what is the Shruti trying to convey? That we have to understand. So Tatparya alone is very important. If you just go by word meaning, you will be misunderstanding. Understand that. You won't understand it properly. In fact, you will end up with error or wrong understanding. So Tatparya only is important when we are talking about words and sentences. Having said that, Prakritecha Sadeva Somya Idamagra Asit iti upakramya tat satyam sa atma tattvamasi shvetaketo iti upasamharena vishuddhe brahmani vedantanam tatparyam avasitam iti katham tatparya vishayam samsargam avabodhaye. So now the author is asking a very interesting question to the Purvapakshi. So he says, he gives an example of the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad. So in the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad, it starts as Sadeva Somya Idam Agre Asit. So Sat alone was there. Before means when there was no creation. At that time Sat alone was there. Even when the creation is there, Sat is there. Even when the creation will become Laya again, Sat will be there. And then even the Upanishad says Sadeva Satyam. Sat alone is Satyam means what? Satyam here is an ontological term. Ontology means what? Already last week we saw epistemology means study of knowledge. Itself is called epistemology. Ontology means study of reality. Okay, what is real? What is unreal? So in Vedanta, ontology is very, very important. What is Satyam? What is Mithya? What is Asatyam or Atyanta Asat we say? These things we have to understand very clearly. So Sadeva Satyam means Sat alone is Satyavastu, which is there, Trikale Api Tishtati, that which is there without any change in all periods of time. In fact, that which is beyond space-time. So that Sat is what? That is Satyam, Tat Satyam, Sa Atma. That is nothing but your Atma. That is what the Upanishad is revealing, the identity. Tattvamasi Shvetaketo. So like this, when this Tattvamasi Vakya is being presented here, it ends like this in fact. It starts with Sadeva Somya Idamagre Asit. That is the Upakrama. The Upasamhara is Tat Satyam Sa Atma Tattvamasi Shvetaketo. In between, in fact, that Vastu is presented as Jagat Karanam. Okay. So, that Jagat Karanam Sadvastu Brahma is nothing but you, the Atma. You are that. Shvetaketo is the teaching. So, when an identity is being revealed like this, the Tatparya is not in revealing any relationship or qualifications, nothing. Here we are only trying to reveal the identity of Sadvastu with one's own Atma. Atma is also Satchidananda. Brahma Vastu also is Satchidanandam, Anantam. Satchidanantam we have to say. And Atma also is Satchidananta. So the identity is the only thing which is being revealed. There is no intention of revealing anything else. So when the intention is to reveal the identity of Brahman and Atma and thereby revealing one's own Swarupa, where is the question of any samsarga here? There is no intention of revealing any relationships or contact or qualifications, all that. So that is what he is saying here. Brahmani Vedantanam Tatparyam Avasitam. So showing this Atma as Brahman only, the Tatparya is. Okay, there is no other intention of the Veda. It is very clear if we analyze it. How it begins, how it ends, what is repeated in between. So in fact, when we analyze the Veda Vakya, we even talk about Shadlingani. We talk about Upakrama Upasamharo, Abhyasa, Apurvata, Phalam. Arthavadopappatti cha lingam tatparya nirnaye. Like this, there is a verse is there. So in this upakrama upasamhara is one linga, one indication. We have to see whenever we are analyzing the Veda Vakya, how a particular prakarana starts and how that section ends, which is very important. How it starts, how it ends. Then abhyasa means what? What is repeatedly told. In fact, this Tattvamasi itself is repeated many times in the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad. Yeah, linga means symbol or indication. Okay. So here we have to say it's an indicator or an indication for us to understand the Tatparya. So Upakrama Upasamhara is one linga, Abhyasa is another linga. That's what we are discussing now. So second linga is Abhyasa or repetition. Whatever is repeatedly told, that is what the Shruti is trying to reveal. Correct? We have to take that as a Tatparya. Then the third one is Apurvata. Whatever the Shruti is revealing, is it Anadigatam? If it is something already known, why should the Shruti even reveal it? Even if the Shruti is revealing it or talking about it, it's not a Pramana Vakya. It is only Anuvada. It is only a restatement of whatever is already known, maybe for some emphasis and all that. But for a Vakya to be a Pramana Vakya, it has to be Apurva or Anadigata. It has to be something revealed only by the Shruti. So Apurvata also is important. Here Tattvamasi Jnanam is Apurvam only because no other way we can know that. Then what? Phalam. What is the phala?
Does Anadigata mean uninterrupted?
Adhigatam means whatever already obtained. Already gained. Adhigatam means. Anadhigatam means something which is not already obtained or gained or known. Here in this context, not which is already known, something new. Shruti, for it to be a pramana, has to reveal something new to us. What is the point if Shruti is restating whatever you already know? In fact, that is one of the objections we raise against Dvaita, correct? Dvaita, Shruti need not come and reveal to us Dvaita. Dvaita, everybody thinks Dvaita is Satyam. You go to the road and ask somebody, even that person who has not read any Vedanta, nothing, a common man will say, yes, I am not Ishvara. For that you don't have to study the Shastra for 12 years, grammar and all that, and then arrive at finally saying, I am not Ishvara. Correct?
Yeah. So the Apurva I understood. Apurva means which is not already known.
Correct. Same thing. Anadhigatam also means the same thing.
Which is not already known. Okay.
Correct. Adhigatam means already known. Anadhigatam means it's a negative particle. Correct? Not already known.
Jainji, you mentioned the three Upakarma, Upasamhara, what is being, whatever Abhyasa that it has to be repeated, and whatever has to be said has to be Apurva, right? What are these three things?
Three more are there. We'll cover that. So these three we have seen.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the first one again?
No, what are these qualifications? What is the context you are presenting these?
I am presenting this in the context that how do we know the Tatparya of Shruti Vakya, correct? Because here we are saying the meaning of a sentence is not purely based on the relationship, only the relationship between the words. If we take it like that, then anybody can understand anything based on the word. The most important thing is first we have to know what is the Tatparya of the Vakta. Whoever is the speaker, or if it is a book also, okay, what is the Tatparya there? Tatparya means the intention, correct? What is being conveyed? What is actually being conveyed? We have to understand that. Now to understand that, we are saying when we do Mimamsa, that is why we have to do Mimamsa, correct? Anybody can quote any random sentence. That is happening a lot nowadays also, correct? people randomly take a sentence from Gita or Veda and they can say anything about it. But that is called quoting out of context, correct? So we have to understand the context, and from there only we can understand what is actually being conveyed. To understand that, traditionally we say there are 6 lingas are there to understand the tatparya or the intention of the speaker. In that context only I am talking about this Shadlinga. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
So, in that Upakrama Upasamharau means Upakrama means beginning, Upasamhara means ending. So, how it starts, how it ends is very important. Then whatever is repeated, Abhyasa is important. Apurvata is important. Then Phalam, whatever is revealed should be Phalavat. This is particularly true for Shruti. Understand that. Many times what is revealed by your sensory perception is not useful, correct? You go somewhere and you have to close your nose like this because your nose is revealing something which is not very useful to you. Or you close your eyes also sometimes. You don't want to see certain things. If you keep it open, it is revealing. So, sensory perception is automatic, but many times it is not phalavat, correct? It is not useful to you. You in fact don't want the jnanam through your senses. But Shruti is a deliberate pramana, and whatever it reveals has to have some purpose, some usefulness, utility. That is what is phalam, phalavat arthabodhakatvam we say. Shruti has phalavat arthabodhakatvam. So whatever it is revealing is phalavat, it is useful, it is utilitarian. So Shruti cannot simply say in Swarga, crow has white teeth or something like that. It has no meaning, correct? But in this case, the Tattvamasi, there is phalam. Moksha is the phala. Jivan Mukti is the phala. Those things also the Shruti itself talks, correct? Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati and all that. Atmavid Shokam Tarati. Like this, in different places, the Jnana phala is presented. So, this phalam is very important. That is the 4th one. Then, what? Arthavada. Sometimes in Shruti some stories are presented for telling you certain things. Okay. So those are all called Arthavada. Even from that we try to learn some meaning. So for example, recently even Sringeri Shankaracharya was telling why the Palasha Mara, this Palasha tree is there, correct? I don't know what they say in English. I think it is called flame of the forest because, or mostly any tree which is having a red flower is called flame of the forest, I think. So this Palasha also, this tree has red flowers. But more importantly, it is very useful in Homa. We use the twigs of the Palasha tree only as Samid. So why do we use that? Because there is a story in the Rigveda that when the Devas were discussing, this Palasha tree went and it overheard their saying. Okay, but that is being looked upon as a curiosity for knowledge. And so if some sadhus are discussing something in a satsanga, you don't need any invitation. You have to go and take part yourself. Okay, that is what is conveyed, and so because of that, this Palasha tree has a speciality. It is used as Samit and all that. Like that, stories are also there. Those are all called Arthavada. So from the stories also, but we try to derive some meaning. So what is the story part also we have to be sure. Then finally, there is also called Upapatti. So Upapatti here means some analogies and all Shruti is giving. Okay. So these analogies, or you can say Shruti Sammata Tarka. Internally it gives some logic to make it all consistent, correct? The whole, whatever the Shruti is revealing, it has to be consistent. For example, even this Vacharambanam Vikaro Namadeyam Mrittika Ityeva Satyam, like that Shruti is saying this whole creation is nothing but names and forms only. It's all only Vikara. It's all only some modification. It's a name and some form. Form itself is modifying. Names are also changing. Forms are also changing constantly. But what is Satyam? Is Mrittika, is the clay. So clay is clay, even though it is in the form of a pot, or it is in the form of a spoon, or it can have many other forms. Okay, it can be
one question here. What is being modified?
That is what. See, clay does not, that is what we call Vivarta, correct? There is no real modification to the Swarupa of gold. Gold example is even better than clay, because even in clay we can say that it is burnt. So some modification is there in its Swarupa. But if you take gold, gold is gold, correct? When you go to a pawnbroker, it doesn't matter in which form gold is there. Pawnbroker is a jnani. Why? Because for pawnbroker only the weight counts, correct?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it is a bangle or chain or whatever. It can be in any form.
Is it consciousness that is being modified?
Consciousness is not modified. That is why we say even without it any modification, it becomes.
Is it a modification of the consciousness?
The modification is mithya. Understand that. There is no real modification, but there is a modification which we perceive. It's only an appearance. The modification is only an appearance, it is mithya, it has no reality of its own. Satyam is only gold. If you look at it as gold, it is always gold, correct? It doesn't matter in which form it is. In my perception or in my cognition of gold, there is nothing else. I understand gold as it is. What is its Swarupa? That is what is Nirvikalpaka Jnanam also, whatever we are talking now.
So what I'm asking is, when we sit in meditation and we are, we have closed our eyes, but we suddenly see forms and we give it a name, and then if we start concentrating like that on the thoughts, then we get diverted from our real nature. So can you say that our consciousness is going through kind
of...
See,
that's what, those things are all happening in your mind, correct? That is what we say manovritti. The nature of mind is to take all these forms, is to keep on modifying from one to the other. That is how mind is. If mind does not modify like that, you won't have any thoughts at all, correct? You can't do any transaction. The nature of the mind is like that. But of course, to understand our true nature, we try to separate the nature of the mind from our own nature. For that we have to have certain calm mind to appreciate ourselves, and also to be able to focus on whatever is of interest to us. So for a mumukshu, the only interest is to know oneself as the limitless Brahman. And if the Shruti is revealing that to you, and if it is clear, but still due to some hindrances, some habitual tendencies, that knowledge is not always available to you, means you would like to recollect that same knowledge and keep your thoughts on that alone. That's what we have to do, but that takes some effort, because the natural tendency of the mind is to jump from one thing to the other. It keeps on changing the forms, correct? The manovritti, that is, vritti itself means modification only. So it modifies from one form to another, the mind keeps on taking. So if you want to go against that, that requires a certain effort. Even in Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter, Bhagavan says, Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. Because Bhagavan talks about all this dhyana and says that you have to the exclusion of all other thoughts, you have to think about this particular teaching. Correct?
Yeah.
Then Arjuna says, how it is possible? Mano durnigraham chalam manali, he says. Mind keeps on moving, it is chalam. And durnigraham means what? It cannot be easily controlled or mastered very easily. Then Bhagavan says, correct, it is difficult only, but that is why you require to practice again and again, correct? Abhyasa means what? Repetition. Repeatedly, yeah.
The candle that is not shaking, right? Give an example of the candle flame that doesn't
Correct,
flicker.
correct. Yeah, yata deepo nivatastaha nengate sopama smitana, there is a verse.
What is that symbolic of?
So when the deepa is there, it is always flickering, wherever particularly when the wind is there. But when there is no wind, the deepa remains vertical, steady. So like that your mind has to be there. So that is a similar example.
What is
So as part of our sadhana, we have to do that. That is recognized by all acharyas. The Vedantin, we accept that. That is why I say, even I said in the last class, yoga sadhana we accept. But we don't accept the conclusions of the yoga darshana. Is that clear?
yeah, okay. What is the symbolism of the wind in that example of the flame?
Wind is like your samskara only, we have to say, correct? Because our mind, even if you don't want to think about anything, something comes, correct? Where does it come from? That is all accumulated samskara, we have to say. Whatever.
Or vasana, right?
Correct.
Or
Whatever is there, we can call it vasana. Or in this janma, you are supposed to undergo some prarabdha karma, correct? That karma itself is making you think in a certain manner. So that is all. That is part of the samskara for this janma.
Okay.
So any thought which is coming in your mind is not a problem. That is, you have to take it as Ishvara Prasada only. Ishvara has made you think like that, correct? The thought is coming from Ishvara only. Ishvara only selected some prarabdha karma for you to undergo in this life. So you don't have to condemn yourself for some thought which is happening in your mind. That also you take as Ishvara Prasada. It will be easy. You will become objective about yourself. You have to first become objective about yourself as an individual. Otherwise Vedanta will become self-condemnation, which is again a tragedy, correct? So it should not become that. Vedanta should make you understand yourself and accept yourself totally, and the world also you have to accept totally. Otherwise, how are you going? If you are constantly fighting with yourself and the world, where is any shanti or anything?
So what is the example of what you said, like Vedanta should not become self-condemnatory? Means blaming yourself for the Arishad Vargas maybe?
Blaming yourself for some thought which is coming up in your mind. That's what exactly I am right now pointing out, correct?
Yeah, so you think
thoughts are coming to you because of so many reasons. It depends on how you were brought up, currently what you are doing, where you are. Many things are involved in that, correct? And also a thought which is coming is not under your willpower also. So why should you blame yourself?
But
what you don't have to do, let me tell you, that's what, see, Bhagavan says, Dhyayate Vishayan Pumsaha. So, about Vishaya you think, some Vishaya keeps on coming in your mind. Then Sangasteshu Upajayate, from there only the problem comes, Sangha. Then you become attached, or you become interested, or you become desirous of that Vishaya. From there only the problem starts. Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha, Bhagavan says. So first there is some liking, some whatever, some interest, then it becomes a desire, like, dislike and all that. Then kama krodho vijayate. If kama is not fulfilled, then krodha. Like that, the one whole thing Bhagavan gives in the second chapter also, correct, in Gita.
Yeah.
So there, we have to be objective. Thoughts are coming, let it go. That's it. You don't have to get involved with that. That is what is maturity, correct?
But some people, they get so hung up on Arishad Vargas. They keep saying, I am not able to control my Arishad Vargas, how can I do sadhana?
See, that is what, even that, see, everything, by just condemning yourself, you are not going to change. You have to understand why Arishad Varga you are saying, 6 different enemies are there, correct? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya and all that we say.
Yeah.
But unless we understand ourselves and why certain things are happening, how are you going to get rid of all these things? It is not just do with willpower or anything, you will only suppress and it will again burst some other time. So suppression, so that is why there is a cognitive change has to happen first.
Okay.
The way you understand yourself, the way you understand the world, you have to understand Bhagavan as the Karmapala Data. If you understand Bhagavan is the Karmapala Data, then you are not a failure or a success also. Correct?
Yeah.
So many things are a problem because you think you are a failure. But why are you taking upon yourself something which you are not really entitled to? Correct? So those are the things which are very important. If we are able to understand Bhagavan as this niyati, as the very order, there are so many orders in the creation. The entire, by looking at whatever is given to you, see, we are all like people who have checked into a 5-star hotel, correct? I am born and everything is available to me, right? From air, oxygen, right amount, water, so many things, everything is given.
Yeah.
So in the given, we have to appreciate the giver. Giver is Bhagavan, everything is given. And whatever is given, if you are able to take it as prasada, that prasada buddhi only will give you shanti. Otherwise, you are only clamoring and you are going to get anger. Anger will become guilt. The anger will lead you to do something stupid. Because of that, you will have guilt. So many things. It keeps on going. It's a vicious cycle. So again in that, one more thing which is getting added is what you came to Vedanta class and started blaming yourself on top of that. You should not become like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have to understand things, and then of course you have to make an effort to change yourself. It's not going to happen overnight also. So you have to have ahimsa on yourself first. You have to have patience with yourself. So insights have to be repeated, unless, that's why this abhyasa, and even here we talk about, correct, Shadlinga also, abhyasa is important. Vedanta also is so, it is, Veda Mata is Karunamayi we say, because it repeats many things so that we understand very clearly. So what we were discussing here is what, Tatparya is very important. Tatparya of the Vakta alone is important, and words has to reveal that. Words cannot reveal just only by the relationship between the Vibhakti or between the different words. We can't say the Vakyartha is to be understood. Is that clear? So that is what we have said here. So if the Veda is revealing only Samsarga Anavagahi Jnanam, if the Vedanta is only revealing Aikya Jnanam, which is Samsarga Anavagahi, then what is your problem? You have to understand it as it is. And that is Nirvikalpaka Jnanam only. Okay. So Katam Tatparya Avishayam Samsargam Avabodhet is asking. So Samsarga is not Tatparya Vishaya. When Tattvamasi is being talked about, only identity is revealed. Only the Swarupa is revealed. There is nothing else which is the Tatparya, which is the intention of the Shruti. So whatever is not the subject matter of the Shruti, how can it be talked about here? So whatever you say, we don't accept. So he says, idameva tattvamasi ityadi vakyanam akhandarthatvam. So there is one more terminology which is used. They say this akhandakara vritti, like that people talk about Vedanta Jnana. So akhanda means what? Division. Akhanda means whole. You are not looking at the divisions or anything. You try to understand something as a whole. Okay. So you try to understand the Swarupa. That is what is called Akhandartha. So Tattvamasi is revealing the Akhandartha. It's not talking about any division, or it is not talking about some guna in a dravya. Means then there is a division, correct? Dravya, guna and all that. No, here your Swarupa is revealed as the same as Brahman. Tattvamasi. Where the Tatpada also you have to give up certain things. Tvampada also we have to give up and only understand the identity in terms of the Swarupa. That is what is called Bhagatyaga Lakshana also, technically. Because Tat is Jagat Karanam, everything is Sarvajnaha, Sarvavid, Sarvashaktiman. Tvam is Alpajnaha, Jivaha.
What is Lakshana mean?
Bhagatyaga means we give up one bhaga. So in Tvam we have to give up all these things which are associated with your body, mind, sense complex and understand yourself only as a conscious being. Tat also you have to give up all the Jagat Karanatvam. Jagat Karanatvam also is Mithya because Jagat itself is Mithya. If Jagat itself is Mithya, the Jagat Karanatvam also becomes Mithya for Brahman. It is not something real. That is what we call Tatastha Lakshana. It is only an incidental attribute.
What is the Jagat Karana Karanatvam? Jagat Karanatvam means the cause of the world?
Correct. Cause of the entire universe. We say Brahman is the cause of the entire universe.
So it means we eliminate the Panchabhutas.
Correct. Panchabhutas cannot themselves create anything, correct? So all of them came only from Atma. Like that, Taittiriya Upanishad is very clear.
Okay.
Our other Upanishads are also talking about Brahman as the Jagat Karana. But they don't stop there. Then they also say the Jagat itself is Mithya. Jagat has no existence of its own. It is only Nama Rupa. Vacha Arambanam, Vikaram. It is only a name and a form which is changing all the time. The reality is Brahman alone is reality. And it never changes. So since the Jagat itself is Mithya, Jagat Karanatvam for Brahman also should become Mithya. It is not its real Swarupa. So Brahma Swarupam also is only Chaitanyam. Jiva Swarupam also is Chaitanyam. As Chaitanyam we are one and the same. Identity alone is revealed by Tattvamasi, not any Samsarga. So this Akhandarthatvam is revealed. It is not revealing any division. It is revealing Brahman as Purnaha, yourself as Purnaha, limitless, Ananta, as whole. So that is what is called Akhandartha. So yet Samsarga Anavagahi Yathartha Jnana Janakatvam iti. So Akhandarthatvam means what? That which does not reveal the Samsarga. Samsarga Anavagahi and also Yathartha Jnana Janakatva. What it reveals something as it is. That means it reveals the Swarupa of a Vishaya. So any Jnanam which reveals the Swarupa of a Vishaya is a Akhandartha Jnana. That is what is said in Chitsukhi also. There is a verse here. So Chitsukhi is a very advanced Advaita text written by an author called Sri Harsha. So there are even stories about him, like he was too much of a genius. Initially he wrote something, nobody could understand anything. Then it seems that some other elders told him, you go and have this Mahishi, the curd of buffalo for 6 months. So buffalo curd is supposed to make you a little bit manda. So they actually asked him to have that and again come back so that they can understand whatever he writes. In fact, one of my Guru Bhai Swamiji, he recently told me, we studied Chitsukhi, that text is called Chitsukhi, but actually it became Chitdukhi, he said. But he is a very, very well-known and very regarded author in the tradition, your guru in the tradition. So what does he say about this? Taduktam samsarga asangi samyak di hetuta ya giramyam ukta akhandartata yadva tat pratipadhikarthata. So the same thing only was said by the author here. Samsarga anavagahi yatartha jnana janakatvam, he said. Same thing is said by Chitsukacharya also here. He says samsarga asangi. Okay. So not connected to any samsarga, any connection. So samsarga asangi. Samyakdhi means that which reveals something very clearly as it is. So samyakdhi hetuta. So whatever is the cause for having samyakdhi and also which is actually revealing something which is samsarga asangi. So ya giram. Giram here means words. So whichever words which are revealing to you or which are becoming a cause for revealing to you a knowledge which is not again revealing any relationships, but it is revealing something, some swarupa very clearly. That is what is called yam akhandartata ukta. So such words are having akhandartata. Or another way of looking at it is what? Tat pratipadhikarthata. If something is only revealing the meaning of the pratipadhika, the noun meaning. What is the meaning of a noun? See, generally when we use noun in a sentence, we have to add vibhakti, prathama, dvitiya and all that. So Rama is pratipadhika. Ramaha is prathama. Ramam dvitiya. Ramena tritiya. Correct? Ramaya, Ramat, Ramasya, Rame. Like this we have all these 7 vibhaktis are there. Now without vibhakti, if you have to understand the swarupa of a vastu, so that means the pratipadhikartha only it is. It is the meaning of the noun alone, the noun stem. So when you understand the meaning of a noun stem, that is also akhandartha only. Because there we are trying to understand something as a whole, its meaning, the meaning of a particular noun, nothing else. Not its connection with anything else. So that we can call it pratipadhikarthata, also can be called akhandartha. Or more elaborately, if you have to understand, samsarga asangi samyakdhi hetuta ya giram. So for which words this hetu is there, hetuta, hetutvam we have to say, those words have akhandartata. Like that is defined here. So that again author is clarifying here. Pratipadhikartham, pratipadhikartha matra paratvam. So pratipadhikarthata means what? Pratipadhikartha matra paratvam. Akhandarthatvam iti chaturtha padartha. So the chaturtha pada here is tat pratipadhikarthata. Like that Chitsukacharya is saying. The meaning for that is further explained here. So here he is saying pratipadhikartha matra paratvam. So if you are only revealing the pratipadhikartha, that again becomes akhandartha vakya. So we will see more about this, some more examples and all that. What do we mean by pratipadhikartha matra what is Akhandartha also we will see further. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.